Fun fact from that period of time as well is I think there would have been a multiversal. There's a multiverse out there somewhere where it might have been you and me casting. If Wolf was still there and there was an open position at that point, and Jake wanted to go. Jake obviously he wanted to go back to Houston to coach, and there was an open position. There was actually an opportunity where maybe you and I could have been a duo at that point in time. But let's talk about the fact that you did eventually make Overwatch League, and as we sort of round out the career cycle of, you know, into Overwatch, out of Overwatch, and we already talked about Deadlock and where you're at now. So towards the end of 2019, we go through all the international events into Gauntlet, and then you are eventually picked up into the Overwatch League. How was that sort of situation for you where, okay, you had to wait 2 years, but now's your opportunity. You ended up back with Jake again, which probably, I don't know, probably something you wanted, absolutely, because you guys already had been casting together. And then Jake ends up leaving, you end up casting with Doa, and then they also then don't end up bringing you back for 2022. Well, so
the funny thing is, I might not have casted in 2020 under different circumstances. So the interesting thing there was that the priority, even though, like, you know, me and Avast were hyped up by the talent managing people at the time, saying it's like, yeah, we really do want you as a duo in 2020. We're going to need more duos because of everything else. The reality was, when it came down to it, Jake said, okay, it's time for me to cast. It wasn't me choosing Jake or anything like that. It was, all right, Jake, you want to cast. Who do you want to cast with? Jake could have named someone else other than me, and I wouldn't have been in that duo, despite like all the work I had done in Contenders and into World Cup at that point. Because the goal there was, you know, Jake, of course, an enormously good brand. Someone that you talk to ideas like, well, you know, who do people love, etc. I think Nate had just departed at that point, but you know, Nate, of course, was like one of the biggest fans of Jake ever. And, you know, the road for Jake was like very, very solid for Blizzard. So from their point of view, it was, we have a Jake casting duo, period. Who does he go with? And, you know, Jake was like, look, I've worked really well with ZP. Get me involved. And also, initially, they were offering someone else to cast with Jake. I'm not going to go into like that detail and who that was, because, you know, that's just where we're like, oh, well, Jake chose me over this other person. But I was not even the original person that they were proposing Jake cast with in 2020. But Jake was the one that was like, all right, I got your back. Like, you know, let's go in as a duo together. Which, of course, also inadvertently fucks Avast in this entire situation, where Avast had put on an entirely good product going in there. Where, funny enough, obviously not my story, but, you know, we've talked about it, I think, on Avast stream at some point. So for completion's sake, if you haven't heard it, there was a lot of people that were very on the idea of like, well, at the very least, like, Avast should be on desk. Like, he's been such a good broadcast talent the entire year. He did get a desk offer for 2020. However, it was only 80,000, which was like which was kind of the starting OWL salary from season 1. The problem is that because they didn't give the desk offer to Avast at the same time everyone else got the offers, like they had to be arm twisted into it. Avast at that point had sought out other things to do and had gotten like an offer to do content creation for Envy. You know, as you remember, you had the Envy Jane show and other stuff for like 85K a year. Avast still wanted to do OWL, but given the fact that he would have had to move to LA, which is way higher cost of living, you know, he rightly went to them and said, look, you know, I'll do it, but you guys gotta need to come up to at least 100K. I'm not going to take less money to move to LA and get absolutely destroyed on prices just to do OWL. And instead of bringing Vast on, where there just would have been a bigger desk that year, they just said, nah, well, we'll use casters as like guest analysts instead. And they did not go up $20,000. But if they had, $20,000 is all it would have taken to get into the timeline where Avast is doing desk. And with as good as Avast is as a personal talent and how funny he is and just, I think, what he brings to that environment, he would still probably be on desk to this day if that had gone through. But it was like $20,000 that knocked us off that timeline.
If you enjoyed that clip, the full episode is linked below. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss a new episode.